This is the map of the United States you're probably familiar with, but it's not the complete picture. One state is missing: Alaska. Physically separated from the rest of the United States by Canada's vast wilderness, making it the only state not connected to the contiguous U.S. by land. The shortest driving distance from Alaska to the nearest state, Washington, is roughly 2,200 miles, passing through British Columbia and Yukon Territory in Canada. This isolation means traveling from Alaska to other states often requires long flights or journeys through remote terrain. In this video, we'll explore 15 incredible facts that reveal the true scale and uniqueness of America's last frontier. Ready to journey into one of the most remote and fascinating places on Earth? Let's go. Long before it earned the title of America's 49th state, Alaska was a frozen frontier shrouded in mystery and untouched wilderness. In 1741, during a Russian naval expedition, Danish explorer Vitus Bering first laid eyes on Alaska's southern coastline. That single sighting opened the gates to Russian expansion, and by 1784, they had established their first official colony. Russian settlers arrived not in search of gold or glory, but for fur, fish, and trade, exploiting Alaska's rich marine life and vast game population. However, as time passed, the Russian Empire found it increasingly difficult to maintain control over the distant land. In 1867, Russia sold Alaska to the United States for $7.2 million, equivalent to just 2 cents an acre. Many Americans mocked the deal as Seward's folly, seeing it as a frozen wasteland with no value. Today, that purchase is seen as one of the most profitable land acquisitions in American history, rich in oil, minerals, and strategic power. For nearly a century, Alaska remained a U.S. territory, but on January 3, 1959, under President Dwight D. Eisenhower, it officially became the 49th state. At that time, the continental U.S. already had 48 states. Just months later, Hawaii would follow as the 50th. The name Alaska itself comes from the native Aleut word Alyeska, meaning the Great Land. And truly it is. With over 663,000 square miles of land, Alaska is staggeringly large. So large, in fact, that it makes other states look like small counties. It covers more than 17% of the entire land area of the United States and is bigger than Texas, California, and Montana combined. If it were its own country, Alaska would rank as the 18th largest in the world, just behind Iran. That kind of scale is hard to comprehend. If you overlaid it on Europe, Alaska would stretch from Turkey to Portugal. In the US, it would span coast to coast, from California and from Minnesota down to Texas. Yet despite its vastness, Alaska has a population of just around 732,000 people, less than the state of Delaware and only slightly more than North Dakota. With a density of just 0.42 people per square kilometer, it holds the title of the most sparsely populated state in the country. Vermont and Wyoming are the only states with fewer residents, but neither comes close to Alaska's geographical enormity. This contrast between scale and solitude is what makes Alaska so magnetic for explorers, filmmakers, and anyone seeking the untouched. Have you ever been to this vast, untamed land? For those of you in the U.S., what's stopping you from exploring one of the most extreme and breathtaking corners of your own country? Despite its vast wilderness and low population density, Alaska faces a significant homelessness challenge. In 2024, approximately 2,686 individuals were experiencing homelessness in the state, equating to a rate of 37 per 10,000 residents, placing Alaska among the top 10 states with the highest homelessness rates in the U.S. Data shows homelessness rising dramatically in Alaska, but the numbers also tell a complicated story. Anchorage, home to about 40% of Alaska's population, accounts for approximately 65% of the state's homeless individuals. In January, a survey recorded a 53.8% increase, with at least 1,760 in shelters or transitional housing. The causes are multifaceted: high living costs, limited affordable housing, and the state's challenging climate. Notably, Alaska Native communities are disproportionately affected, representing a significant portion of the homeless population. Efforts are underway to address the crisis, including converting hotels into low-income housing and expanding shelter capacities. However, the demand often outpaces available resources, especially during harsh winters. How does a land so rich in resources grapple with ensuring shelter for all its inhabitants? It's hard to imagine a U.S. state capital that can't be reached by car, but Juneau, Alaska defies expectations at every turn. Nestled between steep mountain ranges and the icy Gastineau Channel, Juneau is the only state capital in America that isn't accessible by road from the outside world. No highway leads into this city. The only way in or out is by plane or boat. That might sound like a place plagued by poor infrastructure, but that's not the case. Alaska's highways, where they do exist, are surprisingly wide, smooth, and scenic. The problem isn't bad roads, it's that there just aren't enough of them. In fact, Alaska has the fewest miles of road per square mile of any U.S. state. Most towns, villages, and communities are isolated by dense forests, mountains, or ice. Juneau itself has around 30,000 residents, which is modest compared to Anchorage, Alaska's largest city, home to roughly 300,000 people. Anchorage is a fully connected transportation hub with roads, airports, and seaports. Juneau, on the other hand, feels more like a remote village than a political center. So why was this secluded town chosen as the capital? Was it for its breathtaking scenery or strategic location? A travel documentary could spend days unraveling that mystery and still leave viewers wondering what life is really like in a place where every journey begins with a flight or ferry. When it comes to shorelines, Alaska leaves every other U.S. state in the shadows. With over 33,000 miles of coastline, including the main shore and countless island edges, Alaska boasts more coastline than all the other 49 states combined. From the lush temperate rainforests near Juneau to the icy, windswept Arctic shores in the far north, its coast stretches across wildly different ecosystems. This immense shoreline has long supported indigenous communities, providing fish, whales, seals, and shellfish for food, trade, and tradition. Today, the same waters continue to fuel key industries like commercial fishing, tourism, and marine shipping. Towns and villages still rely on the ocean for survival, but modern ports now also send Alaska's seafood around the globe. Before Alaska became a state, it had no official flag of its own. As a U.S. territory, only the Stars and Stripes flew above its land, unlike the 48 other states that each bore a unique symbol. That changed in 1926, when a flag design contest was launched to foster state identity, and it was a 13-year-old orphan named Benny Benson who would give Alaska its visual soul. Benny's design was simple yet profound, a dark blue background representing the sky and the forget-me-not flower, Alaska's official blossom. In the upper corner, he placed 7 stars forming the Big Dipper constellation, a symbol of strength. To its right, a single larger star, Polaris, the North Star, guiding explorers through the Arctic dark. Together, the stars spoke of Alaska's place as the northernmost part of the nation, full of mystery, direction, and resilience. When Alaska officially gained statehood in 1959, Benny's design was adopted as its flag. Today, it's more than just fabric. It's a story of youth, imagination, and identity. How many places in the world can say their flag was born from the vision of a child? In a travel documentary, stories like Benny's remind us that even the grandest landscapes are shaped by the dreams of ordinary people. What symbol would you choose to represent where you come from? At the edge of western Alaska, the Bering Strait separates two of the world's biggest rivals by just a sliver of ocean. On a clear day from Little Diomede Island, the American side, you can look across the water and see Big Diomede, which belongs to Russia. The distance, a mere 2.4 miles. It's one of the few places on Earth where you can literally see another country with the naked eye. But that's not the only twist. Big Diomede sits just across the international date line, which means it's technically one day ahead of its smaller neighbor. Locals jokingly say you can see tomorrow from Alaska. During the Cold War, this eerie closeness made the Diomede Islands strategic surveillance outposts. Today, the proximity is a quiet reminder of Alaska's Russian colonial past and its enduring geopolitical position between East and West. For any travel documentary seeking the most extreme or surprising borderlands, this windswept gap between two worlds tells a powerful story where geography, politics, and time converge in a single view. In Alaska, flying isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. With more than 12,000 residents holding pilot licenses, over 1% of the state's population can legally fly a plane or helicopter. That's 3.6 times the national average. The reason? Simple. Roads are scarce, towns are isolated, and distances are vast. When your nearest grocery store or clinic is hundreds of miles away, often across impassable wilderness, the sky becomes your highway. But the number of licensed pilots may not tell the whole story. Many more Alaskans grow up learning how to handle small aircraft long before they even consider driving. In a state where float planes land on lakes and bush planes zip between mountains, flying is as common as driving a pickup in the lower 48. Alaska is home to around 400 airports, from remote gravel strips to international hubs. About 30 of these support regular commercial flights. Statistically, the state has 4 times more airports per square mile than the U.S. average. For many communities, air travel is the only way in or out year-round. If you enjoyed this journey, please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Your support helps us keep sharing the world's most extraordinary places, one story at a time. In Alaska, you're far more likely to run into a bear or a moose than another person. And that's not just a saying. With an estimated bear-to-human ratio of 21:1, the odds of seeing a bear here are exponentially higher than spotting a fellow resident. Alaska is home to 2 dominant species, the massive brown bears of North America and the elusive polar bears that roam the Arctic coasts. The state hosts one of the world's largest populations of brown bears, particularly along the Katmai coast and Kodiak Island. These powerful animals roam freely across forests, tundras, and even occasionally through remote towns. Polar bears, while less frequently seen, command the icy north and add to the state's reputation as a true wilderness frontier. Then there's the moose, enormous antlered titans that can weigh up to 1,500 pounds. Unlike bears, moose often wander into suburban areas, even showing up in Anchorage, the state's largest city. Though they appear slow and awkward, moose can be surprisingly aggressive, especially during mating season. On average, Alaska records over 10 moose attacks on humans each year. And feeding them? That's illegal, strictly so. How do you balance economic growth with preserving nature's abundance? Long before Alaska became a household name, it was the Klondike Gold Rush that drew thousands to its frozen edges in 1897. The hunger for riches was so intense that at one point gold was traded for potatoes, a striking example of how survival sometimes outweighed fortune. But as the gold rush faded, another treasure emerged from the frozen ground. By the 1980s, Alaska was producing nearly 2 million barrels of oil per day. In 1988 alone, the state accounted for a quarter of all oil output in the United States. Though production has since declined, hovering now around 400,000 to 500,000 barrels daily, oil still fuels nearly half of Alaska's revenue. From the massive Prudhoe Bay fields to the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, the petroleum industry remains central to the state's economy and identity. Yet Alaska isn't just powered by what lies beneath. It thrives on what swims through its waters. Salmon is not only a cultural symbol, but an economic backbone. The state is home to some of the world's leading salmon packing operations. In rural communities, seafood sustains livelihoods, employing about 15% of the local workforce. Alaska isn't just a land of mountains and ice, it's also home to a staggering wealth of fresh water. With over 3 million lakes, the state holds the record for the highest number of lakes in the U.S., accounting for nearly 40% of all surface water in the entire country. These aren't just scenic spots on a map. They're lifelines for wildlife, transportation corridors, and the beating heart of many remote communities. In addition to lakes, Alaska boasts around 11,000 rivers. The most iconic among them is the Yukon River, the third longest river in the United States. Spanning more than 1,980 miles, it carves its way through pristine wilderness, weaving together a network of streams, deltas, and wetlands that form one of the largest river basins in North America, covering over 832,000 square kilometers. Though it shares its name with the Yukon Territory in Canada, the river's path is mostly American. Nearly two-thirds of it winds through Alaskan soil. For indigenous communities and settlers alike, the Yukon has long served as a natural highway, providing food, connection, and identity. Nearly one-third of Alaska lies within the Arctic Circle, a boundary drawn not just on maps, but in the climate, light, and culture of the far north. Viewed from a satellite image, the circle is a bold yellow ring skimming the top of the world, enclosing vast stretches of tundra and frozen coastline. For Alaska, this translates into a large portion of land where life bends to the rhythms of extreme seasons. Fairbanks, just below the Arctic Circle, is one of the most iconic destinations for witnessing the aurora borealis. On average, the lights can be seen 243 nights a year, transforming the sky into a glowing canvas of green, purple, and red. Is there any wonder why so many choose to include this region in a travel documentary? If you're enjoying this journey through the northern extremes, don't forget to like. Every bit of support helps us continue sharing stories. Alaska is a land that never stays still. Of the 20 highest peaks in the U.S., 17 tower here, with Denali standing tallest at 20,310 feet, the highest in North America. These mountains are more than just rock and ice. They are nature's fortress, shaped by time and force. But Alaska's power doesn't stop at its peaks. It's home to over 130 volcanoes, about 50 still active, the most in any state. In fact, if 4 volcanoes erupt in the U.S. in a year, 3 will be in Alaska. This wild activity is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, where tectonic plates clash fiercely. The ground shakes constantly too, with about 5,000 earthquakes every year, more than 1,000 above 3.5 magnitude. Many go unnoticed, but they remind us that Alaska is a restless, living land. Just outside Anchorage, in a narrow inlet called Turnagain Arm, the ocean puts on a dramatic daily performance. Here, tides can rise and fall by as much as 40 feet, a difference so extreme, it's among the highest in the world. The shape of the inlet acts like a natural funnel, forcing massive volumes of seawater into a confined space during each tidal cycle. This gives rise to a rare and mesmerizing phenomenon known as a bore tide. As the tide rushes in, it forms a single visible wave that travels upstream and against the current. At the right time, surfers and kayakers line up, waiting to ride this wave for miles, guided only by moonlight or the golden glow of Alaskan dusk. The spectacle is surreal, a wall of water cutting silently through the stillness with mountains looming on either side. It's the kind of scene made for a travel documentary where earth, water, and sky collide in unexpected harmony. Beneath much of Alaska's surface lies a hidden layer of frozen earth called permafrost, soil that has remained frozen for thousands of years. Covering roughly 85% of the state, this icy foundation has quietly supported forests, buildings, and roads. But now, it's starting to thaw. As temperatures rise across the Arctic, permafrost is melting at an alarming rate. The results are dramatic and unsettling. Buildings tilt and crack as the ground beneath shifts unpredictably. Trees once rooted in solid earth now lean drunkenly, their foundations eroded by slush. In many places, entire landscapes are buckling, sinking, or transforming into marshland. Worse still, the thaw is releasing vast amounts of methane and carbon dioxide, powerful greenhouse gases, trapped in the frozen soil for centuries. In this way, melting permafrost doesn't just reflect climate change, it accelerates it. Thank you for watching. We hope you'll have a nice day. See you soon.